everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk number 601. That's right, last week was 600. It felt like a real milestone. It's the podcast to do with music technology, synthesizers, production, all kinds of stuff. We even may talk a little bit... well, we might even talk a bit about guitars. Who knows? It does come up occasionally. But yeah, this is the last but one show before Christmas, because Christmas falls on the 25th. So next week is the 18th, and then we've got 2 weeks off, and then we come back on the 8th of January. And I think I figured out how we can do a Christmas quiz. I've just got to get the final details. So I'm looking at about 4 rounds of 10 questions. And if anybody would like to submit any questions, then we could possibly do that. Or if you're maybe a manufacturer, software person, and you'd like to have a prize, donate a prize for the quiz, just get in touch, and we'll try and do this ad hoc thing. I've created this it's Google Forms. Goes into a spreadsheet that auto tots up, and it means I didn't want to do multiple choice, so someone can read around and tick the boxes to see who scored. So it should actually work. I'm quite pleased with the outcome. I've just got to sort it out. So yeah, hopefully we're going to have a Christmas quiz next week with the winner being announced. Actually, our winners being announced actually on the show. So there we go. That's what we're working on. Anyway, I want to say hello to our guests. We'll start with Mr. Robbie Pericelli, who is. Also known as Failed Muser. You might have seen him before. We did an interview with him because he was restoring the Fairlight, and we had a really great listen into the. It was Ian Stanley's and the libraries, and it was a real fantastic sort of. What's the word I'm looking for? Vintage sample fest. Robbie very kindly came on today because we were at the last minute. We didn't have any guests, and he very kindly jumped in, which means he may or may not have had time to look at the topics or not. How are you, Robbie?
I have.
Excellent.
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for asking me to come along. Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Excellent. So, what's that you got behind you? I can see a Korg Prophecy. What mark of Fairlight do we have going on there at the moment?
That one is a Series 2X, which is, in my opinion, the peak Fairlight. That's the best, and it's my little kind of side project. All the other Fairlights that come through here are for clients and stuff, but this one is the one that I intend to keep if I speak to my partner nicely. So yeah, it's a 2X. It's just kind of slowly coming on. It's a Series 1 keyboard, actually. That's a really early keyboard, but it works absolutely fine with that. And we've got SD drives in there now and full set of voice cards, and it's all singing and doing its stuff. So yeah, we just need a monitor and a light pen and the old alphanumeric to go with it. But they are rare as the proverbial rocking horse doo-doo.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how long has it taken you to get to the state it's currently in? Is it a labour of love, or has it been something that's come together quite quick?
No, they rarely come together quickly, any of them. The Series 3s are a lot easier because they're more abundant and easier to fix because they share a lot of stuff with modern day technology. So it's kind of easy to get those going. These, not so much. So this one I actually picked up from a mutual friend of ours, Tony in Bath, and he what is that? That must have been 5 years ago at least.
Oh, right.
And it's just like every year something, like this year we got the SD card drive and a full set of voice cards because I only had one, so I had one voice. I had a monophonic Fairlight. So now we've got the full set of voice cards and the SD card. That's 2019 done. So next year we might get a keyboard, we might get the monitor or the light pen. So we'll see.
Well, good luck with that. And once again, thank you very much for coming on. We also have Mr. Ty Unwin, a.k.a. Santa, who's in his beautifully decorated home with, I can see, lights everywhere. It's a very lovely site. Ty Unwin, of course, media composer, taking a bit of time off to, just to have Christmas. How are you, Ty? You well?
Taking time off to put up stupid Christmas decorations. I'm good, thank you. Yeah. I'm really good. I'm actually quite chilled and relaxed and not stressed, and I'm not quite sure what's going on.
It must be great.
It is great. I mean, everyone knows when you kind of work your socks off and you have no break whatsoever. Just when that break happens, it's quite special. And
did you get ill? Before, that's what usually happens, isn't it? You let go and then just get. Sorry,
I'm not joking aside. I'm just about to. I woke up this morning with a sore throat. So, and for me, that's always what happens. it's a standard fare with me. I get a sore throat and then I go down with a cold or whatever. So I'm just on the way, just for Christmas. Yay.
Oh, it'll be fine. You'll be able to work it out. Anyway, well, thank you very much for joining us, Ty and Robbie. So I want to say a couple of things actually. First of all, we've got a new sponsor, Splice.com, have offered us you get a 30-day free sign up to their 100 sound. Normally you get 14 days free, but if you want to get, you can sign up to their system, millions and millions of sounds, plus all that brilliant stuff about sort of storage and project sharing and all that kind of thing. And I will give you details a little bit about that later on. Actually, I could do that now, couldn't I? Because then we can, and I'll do it later as well. So yeah, we're using the URL. It's quite important that you use this URL because it's the one they're tracking, and it's on.splice.com/347 MPJ capital Q. So that's on.splice.com/347 MPJ capital Q, and the promo code is Sonicstate 100, and you'll get free access to that. You do have to put credit card details in, but you can cancel, and if you download anything in that month, you get to keep it. So that sounds like a good plan. So anyway, but let's get on with a few topics, because there is actually a bit of news. Even though Christmas is normally Christmas kind of blots everything out, but they're still coming. So let's start with this guy.
Zplane technology is used to make many of the biggest hits in the world by top artists and producers. Now you can use it to decode any song and learn to play it in minutes. In seconds, DeCoda can tell you the key, tempo, chords, where the verses and choruses are, and more. Using DeCoda is as simple as adding your favorite song and letting DeCoda help you figure it out. DeCoda offers features that make learning a song more effortless than ever. Using a mouse when trying to learn a song is impractical, but working with DeCoda is just a few keyboard strokes, or on Windows you can use touch. This one simple feature frees you to keep your hands on your instrument rather than the computer.
So I'll summarise that. Basically, Zplane are the guys that they make a lot of the pitch and time stuff for some of the major DAWs and some hardware. It gets licensed in, so it's really sort of fast and efficient analytics stuff. And the decoder is essentially a way you can put a track in, it'll sort of decode it. It even figures out where sort of verses and chorus are, gives you the chord progressions, which, you know, you think, well, why do I need that? But actually, if you've got a set to learn or you're trying to learn a song, it can make it really, really fast, because it just throws it out to you. You can write your chord charts, and, you know, because mostly, I mean, a lot of musicians, I'm sure many of you out there will probably understand this thing where you basically get the gig at the last minute because the drummer's ill or whatever it may be, and you've got to learn a 2-hour set in 24 hours or whatever it may be. So this allows you to kind of get that over the hill very, very quickly. And for working musicians, I think it'd be quite handy. But I mean, they're pitching it more as also the idea that, you know, if you just want to learn a song, it's going to sort of decompose it or decode it, I think is the word. Decompose would be a very bad thing. And then you can just figure out how it goes. I don't know. I mean, Ty, I get the feeling that, you know, I know you did some midge gigs, I mean, but you were involved in that. But you're the sort of guy, I imagine, when you're gigging, that would get the call the night before saying, can you?
Yeah, I am. I've done a fair amount of that over the years. And I'm really lucky. I'm really, really fortunate that because I've done it so long, and I have a good ear, and so essentially I can just listen to anything and just know straight away what the chords are, and I can just kind of hear where it's meant to go and do it. I'm really lucky, really fortunate. So when I was in Redbox, for example, you know, kind of they'd start writing a song, and I'd come in later in the day, and they'd only had to play it once, and that was it. I knew. Oh,
you sort of got a photographic memory, or
yeah. I don't know how or why I do it, and I don't know how I do it really, but it's just there. So I only kind of need to hear it once, and then I can kind of play it. But you know, I'm really fortunate. I think this software is great, because anything that helps to strip away the kind of the mystery of this kind of thing is wonderful, and educational, because people can take their favorite songs and suddenly realize that 80% of music all uses the same stuff again and again and again and again.
Well, it'd be great if you could tell you what sample library it was doing as well. Just, yeah, exactly, by the way, this was that synth.
Yeah, but anything that takes away the mystery, because, you know, if you're starting out or you're you know, kind of you're wanting to go into this world, you know, initially it seems as if it's impossible. Do you know what I mean? It seems like
right.
it's really difficult. But the reality is, as I always keep saying, it's not actually that. When you strip it away to basics, it's not that difficult. It really isn't. And there's a lot of repetition and a lot of simplicity in there. So anything that can help people to learn that is wonderful. I think the only thing to be careful of with this is that I've used things before that have essentially supposedly had chord recognition in, and unless the chords are fairly blatantly obvious, my experience in the past has been that the chord recognition is, you know, I'd say 75% of the time you'll get it, but if you go anywhere that's even vaguely complicated, it can't handle it. So,
oh, okay,
but,
that's worth
you know, but you know, kind of going in knowing that, I think it's great, and also the price. I mean, it's full price is only, is it $49 or something?
€49, 29 till the end of January. So, you know,
29. I mean, I'm not being funny, but for €29, as you say, any gigging musician, anyone that could need to, you know, kind of learn a set quickly, it's amazing. I wish I'd had this 30 years ago. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think it's kind of, I don't know, Robbie, whether you're a live player or whether this is, or you have to learn songs. I mean, I don't, so fortunately this isn't necessarily aimed at me, but it might be useful.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Ty's just said. I'm not a live player. I haven't been one for a long time, and I'm a drummer anyway, so we get the simple bits. But I love this kind of thing. I love deconstructing songs. If I can ever get hold of a multi-track, or somebody has programmed a track-by-track MIDI recreation of a track, I love going in and you know, just learning. And as Ty has said, you think some of this stuff is really complicated. And actually, there's a huge amount of simplicity in there, but you only find that by breaking it down and looking at it piece by piece. And I love reverse engineering that. I am actually thinking about doing something live next year, me and someone else, just, you know, synth and vocal, bit kind of Yazoo style thing. And I want to program some stuff. And so I've been listening to various tracks and trying to find people's websites where they've deconstructed songs and then, you know, use that to inspire me. But this is great, and for the price, it's fantastic. I'm going to buy it as soon as I come off here, because I think it's incredibly useful as an educational tool, as well as for, you know, maybe the gigging musician.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at what does it run on? Musical navigation. It gives you change tempo. I think you can also change the tempo and the pitch as well, so you can slow it down and transpose it as well. Let's see, what does it say?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it works.
Again, that's a really useful thing.
OS X 10.7, Windows 7, and apparently the analyzing is very, very quick as well. But it's just a really cool thing, and it just came up yesterday. And the guy that said, you know, the PR guy that said, he just said the technology is amazing, because the Zplane people are obviously very smart cookies. A lot of their licensing goes out to other products that, you know, is used for all of that pitch and time and analyzing stuff. So it probably is quite good, but we can see. You can find out about it. It's called DeCoda with a C and an A on the end. .app is the place. I think you can you see that there?
But the reality is, I mean, for that kind of money, you know, €29, even if it's only quite good, I mean,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? For that kind of money, it's
Exactly.
such a useful thing to have for almost anyone, to be fair. Anyone, I think, would be able to benefit or learn something from it, even if it's just sticking in their favorite track, just to, exactly as, you know, Robbie said, just to take it apart, deconstruct it, analyze it, and find what it is they like about it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it in action on a track. And I know that they won't do that in an advert because of copyright strikes and stuff, but I would like to, I don't know if there's a demo version, but I'd like to throw a few things at it to test, you know, throw something simple in, throw some kind of acid jazz funk stuff in there with loads of complex chord changes and see how it handles that, just to see how good it is. But like Ty said, for that money, even if it only does a handful of tracks for you, it'll get you halfway to where you want to be. It's nothing, is it?
Yeah, I mean...
Can't hear you, Nick.
Excuse me.
Can't hear you, Nick.
I've just
there you
got,
go.
yeah, I mean, I
There you
pressed
go.
the wrong button and it auto mutes me. Yeah, it just seems like a no-brainer if it works. Definitely. I mean, you know, you only need to save an hour of your time for it to be kind of more or less worth it, or a couple of hours.
Absolutely.
So let's go. All right. So let's do our Splice thing, because I think that might be a bit of the easiest. I can get that in and out of the way quick. New sponsor from Splice. Let's run their little ad.
Find the perfect kick, synth preset, or MIDI melody on Splice, plus millions of other royalty-free one-shots and loops, with more added daily. Zero in on the perfect sound, filtered by tags like genre, BPM, key, and instrument. Or search for something else like a feeling or a mood. Browse, search, and preview all your sounds right from the Splice desktop app, and seamlessly drag and drop them directly into your DAW. Your sounds and presets are available everywhere you make music. Keep them forever, no matter what.
And they're offering a 30-day free trial of the 100 Sounds program, which on screen now, if you can see it, it's on.splice.com/347 MPJ capital Q, and the code is Sonicstate 100, the number 100 or 1, and that will give you 30 days free. Anything you download in that 30 days, I think you got 100 sounds you can get and you can keep, basically. So you just need to sign up. You do need to put your credit card in, but if you cancel it before the first month, you won't get charged anything. So, you know, or you might want to stick around. Anyway, I want to say thanks to Splice for giving it a try. Right, what was next? Oh, yeah, we've got a bunch of bots. Right, okay, I've got a guitar warning now, but the reason I'm doing this is because I think we did this once before. The first one is the new, well, what is this called? The new one is it's called Waza-Air, which is, Waza is a kind of, it's like a boutique kind of craftsmanship type thing. And anyway, let's play it. So these are, I don't know why nobody's done this before. It's basically a wireless guitar transmitter. You plug it into your guitar. All the DSP, I presume, is in the headphones. It receives the sound, and you can practice, and you get access to a lot of those great tones, which, as you can hear, they do seem to respond very well to. I wonder what the latency like. Presumably it's Bluetooth. It may be wireless. I don't know. Yeah, it's the ad, isn't it? But it's an interesting one. It's just come out, and I just thought, what a great idea. The guy who does the guitar used to do some guitar stuff for us, Rob. He was immediately said, "I want to try this. Can I try it? Can I try it?" Because it's, you know, for lots of people who maybe live in a shared house or where they can't make that sort of sound. I mean, putting the headphones on, it is immersive because it's got this kind of. I think it's similar to, you know, what Waves do with that kind of monitoring stuff. So it positionally recognises where your head is, and you can put the amp somewhere in the room, and then as you turn around, you get all of that. You know, quality of what's the thing I'm looking for? You get the positional information. So it's a really interesting idea. So I've just unplugged my headphones there. I was gesticulating too wildly. I think it's about, what was it? It's about $399. And I wondered, you know, whether you could plug synths into it as well, because I'm sure there's a lot of that stuff would work. I don't know, Robbie. I don't know if you said you're a drummer, so this perhaps doesn't apply to you. But I mean, it seems if this has got zero latency and you can just do that, I mean, I can think of a lot of people that would be into that, because it means, you know, maybe they don't have to turn the amp on or whatever. They could just wander around the house, all battery powered.
Yeah, I think, like you said, you wonder why it hasn't been done before. This, you know, this small and compact, you know, this tiny little thing, you plug it in, you've got your headphones, your DSPs in there, because DSP nowadays is you know, you can cram it into something really, really small. So don't know why. My only thought when I watched this was feedback, as in not audio feedback, but feedback from the settings. You know, he's rolling something on his ear to flick through the different settings. Well, how do I know where I am? Are there any adjustments that I can make, or is that all done in an app? Because I think later on in the video they show an app on a mobile device. So I guess that's how they get around that. But brilliant, yeah. And I'd love to stick something, you know, synthesizer-y through it and see what happens, or maybe they can do a synth version, you know.
Well, I mean, I hate to bring it up, but Ty, I mean, isn't it the perfect companion for that keytar you've got in the closet?
I've never bought a keytar in my life. You ever
I could use this on the MS-101.
Yeah, you
Ever.
could.
Yeah, okay, I did have the hand grip on an SH-101, but that doesn't count. That was a long time ago. I was young, I was impressionable. It was just a stage of my life I was experimenting. I was just trying things out. Don't ever bring that up again. There's no video evidence.
Denial, not just a river in Egypt.
No. No, I mean, as a synth player, I think it's great because there's nothing worse than being in a room with bloody guitarists who just want to sit there constantly twiddling. Have you ever honestly spend some time in a room with a guitarist with a guitar in their hand? It is impossible for them not to be twiddling away. They just do it constantly. So honestly, the moment they start, stick the headphones on, we're rid of them. That's absolutely fine. Then when we need them, we can just unplug them and plug them into the desk. Then we can record them, put their headphones back on, and we don't have to hear their rubbish. That's my argument. I think it's a sound one.
I know what you mean, actually, that it's that people playing electric guitar. I mean, this wouldn't stop that because you just wouldn't hear the amplified sound. You'd still hear the plectrum on the guitar strings all the time.
I'd live with that rather than hearing the same blues riff for the band. I'd rather put it with a few twanging. It's fine. But I mean, I don't know what. I don't know. Joking aside, I don't know what it is about guitarists. A synth player or a keyboard player or a pianist or whatever, you can stick in front of a piano. They never have the urge to just sit. If you're doing something, there's other people around. They never have the urge to play. They know it's there, but they don't. Guitarists, if they're holding a guitar, it's impossible. They have to sit there and just have a fiddle. So yeah, as a product, I think it's absolutely great. And I have to say, a bit like Robbie said, really, I'm actually secretly jealous because I wish they would do something that was kind of a bit more a similar thing, synthy. But it's not the same. Guitarists will pick up their guitar and wander around, and they can do that. We essentially, and we're not going to go into the world of guitars because they're bad.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? I think it's absolutely great. I think it's really brilliant, and it's one of the few occasions I actually think, God, I wish I played my guitar more, actually, because it's.
I know what you mean. I mean, the only thing because this is $399. It's not a cheap thing. So I mean, it's got the little bit that you plug into your guitar, but it seems like what it also needs is a line out bass unit, so that you could actually, you could play away, but you could also plug that into something. Because at the moment, as far as I can tell, it only communicates between itself and the headphones, possibly an app on the phone. So you want to get some sort of. You want to get some audio out into the world because those tones sounded pretty good. They'd sounded certainly recordable or usable, and I don't see that there's a way to do that, which I think perhaps might be an oversight.
Yeah, I think that's a good point actually, because at the end of the day, if you get a tone or if you get something on there that's working really well, and then you've got to recreate it on another bit of gear. Yeah. That's a good point actually.
Yeah, I mean maybe I missed something, but
yeah, I think it's really great.
We'll see. But yeah, I think it could be good. We'll obviously check it out at NAMM. NAMM's coming up very fast. It's a week earlier this year, so we booked our flights, we booked our hotel. We're getting into the zone to be out there. I think Matt Hodson's going to be out there as well actually this year, so we might well hook up with him. But yeah, that's the Boss Waza-Air, which does sound a little bit like weeing outside, possibly, but I won't. I won't go into that. You look it up. Al fresco, the Waza Al fresco. Yeah, maybe that's another idea. And there's another Boss one as well. Maybe we'll come back to that though, because we don't want to overdo the guitar side of things. So let me see. Actually, yeah, here we go. That's number 4. So this is Sugar-Bytes DrumComputer, which is a sort of drum synthesizer / drum computer plugin.
Sugar-Bytes DrumComputer is a feature-packed beat synthesis and programming machine. 3 drum-specific synthesis styles, combined with powerful modulation and effects, make a comprehensive and cutting-edge sound engine to produce a wide array of unique drum hits. These hits can be used in the clever beat programming and sequencing engine, with various pattern generation tools and uniquely human randomization features. The synth engine brings an interesting twist to drum synthesis due to a combination of the specialized capabilities of the 3 sound generation areas. We have an 808-inspired engine, a wavetable engine, and a suave resynth engine that liquidizes sounds to produce realistic inharmonic rings and tails.
This looks really good. I mean, I watched the video, and there's all sorts of custom key mapping things where you can set presets. I've always liked the idea of a decent drum synthesizer. I think I reviewed a couple way back, but I mean, because quite often, I mean, I'm guessing, Ty, this is, you know, you have to rely on libraries a lot for your drums. I'm assuming, I'm making an assumption here. I mean, do you have any drum synth kind of stuff that you would throw in there as well? Because this looks like right up your street for just sort of creating unique rhythm sounds.
I do use a few bits of software every now and again, but most of the time, if I'm going to be using drum synth stuff, I actually, because I've got quite a few synths, I literally just turn to one of those. I just turn to the hardware, because I think when you're doing this kind of intricate stuff using percussion sounds, actually having hardware, having real knobs is so much easier than software. So, you know, I'll literally, you know, if I want a kick drum that's a kind of synth kick drum, I'll get, you know, an MS-20 out or something, you know, or whatever. And so I'll start using hardware and a lot of the time I will then sample it. A lot of the time I'll just literally get the hardware synth, turn it into drum sound, then sample it. I mean, this looks fantastic. This looks
it does look really good, actually. Their stuff's great. Sugar-Bytes, definitely.
Sugar-Bytes, I have a lot of time for Sugar-Bytes stuff. I have a lot of their software, and it just always just does, I don't know, it always just does something slightly more than you expect it to do, if that makes sense. That's what I always find about their stuff. You can kind of work to a certain level, and you think, oh, this is sounding really good, and then there's always that extra little bit that you can do, you know, with their plugins. So I think it's great. I mean, I'll definitely be buying this. That looks really good.
It does look really good. I mean, I think you're right about hardware. The thing about hardware is, though, generally the level of control that you want in the real minute details of maybe a decay time, you don't generally get the right control law for drums, because it's covering, you know, really short right up to kind of, you know, 10 seconds. So whereas this is going to be, you want that range to be narrowed. So if the control law is good and perhaps you can computer map it, then it would make more sense. And so getting those drum sounds on hardware, while it's more satisfying, is actually quite difficult if it's not a specific drum hardware thing to get that exact thing, right?
You're exactly right. And that's why a lot of the time, that's why I sample it, essentially.
Oh, and then do some software envelopes to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. I don't know if you can drop your own samples into this. I know, Robbie, I'm guessing, I can't see any drum machines in your gaff there, but I suspect you might have one or two. Oh, look, I can't. Yeah, it's out of shot.
You can't, yeah. So my favourite drum, I like the old stuff, but I also like the Uno drum, which is my current sort of favourite drum toy.
Yeah.
Especially now they've got the new anthology of samples that you can just drop in. So you've got all sorts of stuff there. But I think both of you touched on two things. My point of view is probably worthless now. But as Ty says, I like the hardware. I like hands-on. But as you say, you can't necessarily get that depth of control and customization with a bit of hardware that a piece of software can. When I program drums here, I'm either using pads, finger pads on my Arturia keyboard, or I've got the drum kit downstairs, which is, the Alesis drum kit, which I can then hook up and just play stuff in. I don't like to do that on a piece of software. I don't feel comfortable programming drums on screen because I guess I'm a physical drummer. So
right, yeah, that would make sense.
But this looks like it's got everything you possibly need to create anything you possibly want in a nice little package. And the sound that I heard, there's some interesting stuff coming out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth a try. A lot of their stuff, I mean, their product range seems to be about $120 or 120 euros. Is it 120 euros? Let me have a look. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, $119. 119 is across the board, so you can pick this up. I don't think there's a special offer on this, but 8 sound engines, each one layering a resonator, wavetable, and resynth, filter, compressor, overdrive, 2 kinds of reverbs, 2 envelopes and LFOs, plus synth engine modulators, 16-step sequencer, intelligent randomizer. So I think it's quite good for programming patterns as well, rather than just, but I mean, you can just play it, I guess, just trigger those sounds easily. Easy keyboard mapping for patterns, mutes, and engine triggers and all that stuff. This looks great, actually. If you want to check it out, it's called DrumComputer, and it's by Sugar-Bytes, Bytes with a Y-T-E-S. So well worth checking out. Sorry.
I think more than anything else, I think what's great about it is the fact that, anything that can kind of move away from the samples that we're all used to hearing day in, day out.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing about drum synthesis, because there was a period where it was a big thing and everyone did it. And the nice thing about that is that you would always be hearing these different drum sounds that didn't particularly sound like drums. They were just interesting percussive sounds. And it's almost like there's almost a kind of a laziness that's kind of hit the scene now, where a lot of drum sounds are sounding the same, because we're all using the same samples and the same library. So anything that can encourage just moving away from the norm as such, I think's fantastic. So
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There was a in Jamie Liddell's last podcast, where, I think it was the one he talked to Richard Devine, where he was talking about randomizing stuff. And one of the things with modulators, certainly with drums, I mean, I've done it before, certainly you randomize the decay, so you end up with this kind of, and if you can nuance it ever so slightly, you end up with this real sort of variance that you couldn't get, which sort of emulates something more human. And this looks like it's got all of that stuff going on as well, so you can change things up. It's great for sort of evolving hi-hat parts and hi-hat sounds, all of that sort of thing. So yeah, well worth checking out. Okay, let's just run. This is it's time for our friends over at iZotope to run the competition. It's competition time, folks. You can win iZotope Ozone 9 Advanced. Just carry on watching.
Building on a 17-year legacy in audio mastering, Ozone 9 brings balance to your mix with never-before-seen processing for low-end, real-time instrument separation, and lightning-fast workflows powered by machine learning. Expect lower CPU usage and shorter startup times with Ozone 9 compared to Ozone 8. Experience fluid metering in a fully resizable environment that lets you track the most subtle details of your audio. Use more plugins at once, mix while you master without worrying about slowdowns or dropouts. And immerse yourself in a smooth, modern experience designed to keep you in your creative flow. As you can see, Ozone 9 is the fastest way to get your master off the ground. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos and head to iZotope.com to learn more about mixing and mastering, and to download your free trial of Ozone 9.
And there really is there's tons and tons and tons of resources that they've got there now. Well, I seem to have, oh yeah, I don't know what happened there. I kind of zoomed in unexpectedly. Yeah, so if you want to win a copy of iZotope's Ozone 9 Advanced, here's what you have to do. We're looking for the hashtag 17 years of mastering, because that's how long they've been making Ozone, which is an astonishing kind of thought, really, that it's in double figures and even that long. 17, the number 17 years of mastering, all one word as a hashtag. And the hashtag Ozone 9 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. That's on Twitter. So 17 years of mastering and the hashtag Ozone 9 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And of course, we have a winner from last time. We're looking for last week. The hashtags were for streaming too, because you could use it to do specific mastering tasks that make streaming sound better. So let's just bring this up. The winner this week is someone called Gabriel Fields, @Fields_Gabriel. If you want to get in touch, they tweeted, maybe Ozone will work for streaming too. Yes, indeed it does. So thank you very much for entering. So if you want to get in touch, Gabriel, we will pass your details on to the iZotope people, and they will be able to drop a full working iZotope 9 Advanced, Ozone 9 Advanced in your inbox. Thanks very much to them for their continued support of the show. Very much appreciated. Right, Sugar-Bytes. Let's have a look. What have we got next? Did I get the modular controllers? I'm not sure if I did, actually. Let's have a look. Let's do this one. I think this one looks like fun. Where is it? Did I actually get it in the right place? Oh, yeah, here we go. So this is a video by Fami M, whose channel seems to be focused on tape loop experiments. And obviously he's got some sort of interesting stuff going on here. I'm not entirely sure what it is. There wasn't much in the description, but it's a real old school music concrete combined with modern digital kind of frozen reverbs and delays and what looks like mechanical playback. So yeah, he's got the loop running into, I'm not sure what that looper is. That's an unusual looper. I've not seen that one before. And he's just changing the tapes. I just think it's a lovely sort of thing. It feels like the sort of thing that would be nice to do over Christmas if you have the sort of tape recorder that can handle that sort of thing. I know it's a shame Rich isn't on actually, because I know he studied music concrete and went to college about the time when that sort of stuff was still very much in the curriculum. I know Ty, you did, didn't you? Did you study music concrete? Did you worry?
Yeah, I did all that. Yeah, I did all of that, and I spent many days in a studio with tape loops, going around various studios with microphone stands, stretching and going around corners. And yeah, it was, you used to have to hire out the studio. And the only time, but because there were 4 studios where I was, but because you basically had to have the space to get the really big tape loops, you used to have to book the studio overnight. So you used to have to go in really late. You get going at 10 o'clock at night and basically book all the studios, not just one studio. You have to book them all out, and just to have your tape loops going and writing all this exactly this kind of stuff. But obviously we didn't have there were no loopers back then, so you just have to have multiple tape loops on multiple machines, writing all this kind of ambient stuff. And yeah, it's great. I mean, there's a physicality to it when you're using loops. It's hard. It's because you've used tape and you've done, it's really hard to explain to people that haven't used tape.
Why would you?
Splicing blocks. Yeah, why would you? Splicing blocks and chalk and, kind of writing stuff where to get the note. We've all seen the radiophonic workshop where to get the different notes, you're basically chopping up bits of tape and then sticking them back together and then changing the pitch and re-recording it and all of that. Until you do it, it's hard to explain what is so special about it. Because everything that would take days to do, you can now do in a minute
on your phone.
Yeah, on your phone. And so why would you do it? But there's something, it's not just visiting, memory lane, and it's not just, reminiscing. There is something very physical about it that is very hard to explain to a younger generation. But it's fantastic to do. So I can understand why this guy's doing this, because it's this. It takes you down a different route. It's gorgeous. It's lovely.
I think there's a real movement, actually. I know James Bernard, who works for Propellerheads, but used to work for Propellerheads and does a lot of his own ambient stuff. He's been posting little experiments with his 4-track, where he's created tape loops in a cassette, and he's got 4-track cassettes, and just so you fade up all these different things. So I mean, I think it's it's like vinyl, Robbie, or Fairlights. I mean, even on the Fairlight, it's still a kind of it's quite an achievement to be able to do something like this. There is something kind of quite nostalgic about this, but fun at the same time.
And that's, I think, that's what Ty was driving at. I think I was kind of nodding and saying, it's the process. It's not necessarily the output. It's the process you go through, and the fact that you're chopping up all this stuff, or if you're on a Fairlight, it's a similarly laborious task. But it's that actual hands-on process, and then you get the output, and it's so much more satisfying because you didn't just go into a phone and do something really quick. The weekend before last, I had the immense honour of hanging out with David Vorhaus and Brian Hodgson, who were 2/3 of White Noise, and also Mark Ayres from the Radiophonic Workshop. And I'm sat around this table at the British Library talking to these guys about looping tapes and how sampling, when they got their Fairlight at the workshop, what difference did that make? And people like, Delia Derbyshire, would just shun that stuff because tape was her thing. She knew exactly how to get exactly what she wanted. And she just shunned any kind of, modern synthesizer technology. But to sit with guys like Brian Hodgson and talk about, these, like Ty said, they used to go in really late at night when there was nobody else, so they could make use of everything around the whole, the place that they had there. It was just fascinating stuff. But I like this. I like that kind of ambient stuff. I was just waiting for some kind of minimalistic 2-step, drum beats, kind of burial-esque type stuff, because that's what I like. But I like that, and I am sat here thinking, you can do that in a plugin or in a keyboard nowadays. But where's the fun in that?
Well, there is fun, but yeah, it's an interesting. It is interesting how I mean, you know, you need to be pretty dedicated and sort of prepared to be able to pull this stuff off. You can't just kind of go, "I know, let's do it now." You have to have it all there, I guess. You know, like you said.
I think a perfect combination would be very simple, which is you start off with this kind of, you know, if you get the chance, or you know, you can, to almost create beds or pads or just ambiances like this, and then just record. You know, I've said this before about leaving, you know, Kraftwerk supposedly used to leave their sequencer, you know, overnight, just recording random stuff, and then come back in the morning and listen to it and see if they could find anything that had accidentally sounded, you know, kind of any good. I think this kind of I got this kind of chance, because when you're layering on all these layers, you know, different tapes, and you're not really quite sure where it's going to go or what's going to happen or how the timing's going to match or the keys are going to, what's going to happen. It's all quite random. And then I think there's something quite special in forming this kind of random texture and then taking sections and then putting it basically into the DAW and then doing something with it. I think I told you that I can't remember what the project was now. A couple of years ago, I did all of the beds using Lyra 8. And as we know, the Lyra 8 is so unpredictable that you never quite know what you're going to come out of it. So I literally will just record hours of me messing Lyra 8 and then finding bits and putting them back into the DAW and then using them as the basis of a track. So I think using this kind of technology as a basis for something and then building on top of that would be great. But I think one thing just coming difference between tape and computer and sequencing, as Robbie was saying about when he met all the Radiophonic Workshop guys, is back in the day I wrote a piece really struggling, quite a big piece, really struggling to write it on a 4-track cassette, okay? And it took me forever. You know, the technique of bouncing three tracks down onto one track and then onto another track and then, and it was awful to do in terms of the mechanics behind it. But the piece was amazing. But 6 months later, all of a sudden I had a MIDI sequencer, samplers. You know, I had all the synths there, and now it was really easy to write the same piece. And so, of course, the first thing you do is you go, oh, I love that piece. I'm going to go and redo that piece. Now I've got all the modern tech. And I tried to make it identical, and it never sounded even a fraction as good as the original version. And it's simply because all of the effort, all of the drama that went into doing that first version was what made it what it was.
Yeah.
And the moment you don't have that, the moment it becomes easy, you lose a huge part of the piece. And this is why, exactly as you said, we've got 4 tracks on our phones now, multi-tracks on our phones. But that will never be the same as having something as limited as a 4-track reel-to-reel or a 4-track cassette or a 4-track, you know, because we kind of know that once it's on the phone and we've got a 4-track, we can just stick it somewhere else and
do you think that's down? Is it the eye of the beholder, or actually the case? I mean, because I think to a degree, you know, it may be the fact that everybody can do it now, that it becomes less impressive when you hear it. So therefore, it doesn't have the same emotive quality because you know that it didn't. You know, it could have been really easy to do. But I mean, by the same token, you hear a song that has a great strong meaning for you, and the person who's wrote it said, "Oh yeah, I did it. I whistled it at the back of a bus in 30 seconds," and now it's. So, you know, I wonder about that, how true that is, whether you could measure it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, I think that's a totally fair point. But I think there's a difference between technically things being simple and musically things being simple. For me, there's a difference there, because musically, some of the best stuff that I've written and some of the best songs that I enjoy are actually quite simple. Yeah. And some of the more complicated stuff, you know, kind of works less well. But I think there is definitely something about if things, when it comes to technology and the actual the studio side of things, if things are too simple, I don't know. For me, there's just a lot to be said for that. It's that struggle. There has to be a certain struggle. As much as I don't struggle musically, I like there to be a struggle when it comes to the tech side of things, if that makes sense. I like, not a struggle, that's the wrong word, just because you need to invest more.
Got to be satisfied.
You want to put some investment in it. Yeah, I think it was.
You as an artist. As an artist, you've got to be satisfied. Otherwise, if it's just too easy, you're just banging stuff out left, right, and centre, and it's no fun. And you need that creative restriction.
Sorry, what was
Ed
that?
Ed Sheeran.
Not a fan, I'm guessing.
Ed Sheeran. Look, do you know? Actually, I actually genuinely don't have a problem with Ed Sheeran, but I just think it would be nice if he actually wrote a second song. That's all. That's all. But anyway, carry on. That's my rant. Sorry.
Okay.
I have to.
No, I think you're right. It's interesting. I mean, I'd like to try it out. I mean, I wonder if there's how easy it would be to get, because I mean, it's kind of hard to find a tape machine these days and tape stock. So you're limited there. I mean, but so it's actually harder to do just because you can't pick this stuff up very easily. So it's it's a tricky thing to pull off.
Tape is making a big or cassettes are making comebacks. I mean, I just bought this today. This is. Guess what? It's the new Daphne and Celeste single, but it's trust me, it's good. But it's on cassette, and cassette sales are now at an all-time high.
Wow,
Daphne and Celeste.
I remember Daphne and Celeste. Yeah. Wasn't that like a novelty record?
Well, they were kind of a bit of a novelty act, but Max Tundra, whose real name evades me at the moment, he's a really good producer, had this crazy idea of reforming the band, and he got in touch with them a few years ago, and he did a whole album with them. And please dismiss all preconceptions that you have of Daphne and Celeste, because it's all pretty much Max Tundra's stuff, and then they're just singing on top of it. But this is a remix by a guy called David Shrigley and Lee Baker, and it's really dark and synthy, and it's very good.
Wow, interesting. Daphne and Celeste.
Tape stocks must be back on the rise because the sale of cassettes is increasing. So just to get a simple strip of tape can't be too bad. And looking at that guy's setup, he looks like he's just deconstructed an old cassette recorder which you can pick up for 20p from a car boot sale, and he's made his own little spindle, and then he's just feeding it through some effects. I mean, I'm not saying it's really easy, but it doesn't look that difficult.
Oh well,
can I
okay.
just mention cassette? Can I just have a quick? Because
sure.
I'm struggling with cassette because on so many levels I don't quite get it, because there are certain things that come back, and you can understand why vinyl's still around and has made a surge and is coming back. But the problem I have with cassette is simply the fact that you and I and we all used to master on cassette. We used to record, kind of do our multi-tracks on cassette at some point. And we always knew that cassette was a bit rubbish. And cassette had so many things that was wrong with it. And there is this resurgence. I've seen some of my artists now releasing their albums on cassette, which I don't kind of get anyway. But there's one major flaw in this plan, which is I went to buy a new cassette deck to listen to. As it turned out, it was actually my old demos from when I was 17, 18. And I tried to buy a cassette deck. You go and try and find a current cassette deck that's actually a good cassette deck. We know back in the day we had TIAC and was it Dragon and Akai and Panasonic, and they all used to do
Nakamichi,
these really Sony, Nakamichi, these fancy cassette decks. They don't exist. And my argument is that the only one I went and looked, and there's I think it's like a £300 TIAC or Tascam cassette. That's it. It's a double cassette. There's no, I think it's Dolby B. There's no Dolby C, no Dolby S. Dolby S was fantastic, but there's none of that. I think it's Dolby B, which was rubbish. And the other cassette deck, there's got no Dolby, and that's the only decks that are available currently to play modern cassettes now. So what on earth are these cassettes that are being sold? What are they being played on? Because the only other thing I could find was a little kind of Walkman that was a kind of pretend Walkman with the USB out, and that was it. If someone knows of a really good quality, new, not secondhand, because we all know what the heads go like on secondhand and cassette decks, let me know, because I'd love to buy one, but they're not out there. So
I suspect I know. I expect there's one factory, you know, in the East that makes cassette mechanisms and supplies everybody, and that's it. It's a one-size-fits-all thing. And same with tape heads as well. I'd imagine it's probably, you know, there's just nobody making them.
There's no decks out there. There's no new decks out there. There's this TIAC and Tascam one.
You mark my words. We'll sit NAMM. They'll be like, that'll be the hot product. There'll be brand new cassette decks from everybody. That'll probably be it. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
That's what we.
Or as Chris Head has said in the chat room, Behringer.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. They probably will. Yeah, I mean,
I think what I found with cassettes is that in certain genres of music, particularly like the synth wave movement, if you could call it that, they're heavy on selling their stuff on cassette, even mini disc. I mean, I've bought mini discs, and I still have the hardware to play it back on, so it's quite cool. And it's cute, and I think a lot of the resurgence recently in cassettes is more of a nostalgic collecting thing. I mean, yes, I do have a tape deck, but I will probably not play that. I'll stick that in the cupboard with all the other cassettes and just put the digital download on when I want to listen to it. But it's interesting, and it's true what Ty says. You know, the hardware is, unless you've got some really good old stuff kicking about that hasn't, you know, fallen foul of, you know, what tape decks used to go through, then yeah, you're pretty much stuffed at the moment. But you know,
yeah. Well, I think on that nostalgic end, it's probably time to wrap things up. I know you guys are busy. I appreciate that. I've got a bit of shopping to do. I've started my Christmas shopping. I've still got to finish it. I think there's still time to order stuff via Amazon or wherever it is that you choose. I think the Christmas market in Bath is about to stop. So yeah. Oh, I hope you have a good week, folks. And like I said, I'm hoping that we can pull off a quiz next week, a real-time quiz. What I'm looking for is, if you want to email in or get in touch with, if you have 10 questions, I'm going to do 4 rounds, so I can't promise they'll all be used. And that could be like clips, you know, maybe 10 sound clips, and you go what each track is, and then maybe there's a connection round. I'm looking for that sort of stuff, because I've figured out how to make a quiz work in real time, and you'll be able to enter the answers in Google Forms, and then we'll get it into a spreadsheet, and then someone can mark it. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm still looking for prizes as well. So a Christmas quiz next week is what we're aiming for, and hopefully we'll get some rounds. Anybody want to submit? We're looking for 4 rounds of 10 questions. So if you want to do 1 round, that's totally fine by me. I might have a round that I did for a New Year's Eve quiz in case we're stuck. So it'll depend, because if there's no questions, then I'm going to struggle to write 40 questions, and they could be synthy, obviously, because you know that's the nature of our industry and our podcast. But I want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining us. I want to also say, while I still can, if you want to enter the competition to win Ozone 9 Advanced, we're looking for the hashtag 17 years of mastering, and the hashtag Ozone9 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And we're also, I would like to point out the offer that Splice are offering, which is 30 days of free 100 sound subscription. You go to on.splice.com/347 MPJ capital Q. That's on.splice.com/347 MPJ capital Q, and the promo code is Sonicstate 100 if you want to enter that, and that'll give you what you need to do. Folks, thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you. Ty, I hope you do feel okay and the cold doesn't get you. I get that all the time, where I feel like I'm getting ill and it never quite gets me. So maybe you'll be off the hook.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
you'll be fine.
And if I don't see you before, have a lovely, lovely Christmas and all the things that go with it.
If there's a quiz going on next week, I think next Wednesday might be okay, actually. And if there's a quiz going on, you know, you can't keep me away from a good quiz.
Okay, well, I can't promise a good quiz just yet, but I can promise maybe a quiz of some sort if we get that. So, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Ty, and also thank you, Robbie, for jumping in. And I hope you have a look. You look like you're probably going to have a lot of fun over Christmas with some free time. You've got a DX5 T-shirt. Is that a DX5 you've got behind you to enjoy as well?
Yeah, picked that up a few weeks ago in mint, well, almost mint condition. The aftertouch is a little bit dodgy, but that's nothing that can't be fixed. But yeah, love it. And it's I've now got I bought the DX5. I've now got TX7, a QX5, and an RX17. So I've kind of got the full early 1980s Yamaha recording studio.
Oh, excellent. You need, what was it, the MTX4, wasn't it? Wasn't there a 4-track cassette as well? You need one of them.
The MTX4, yeah. And then there's the DMP7, which is the digital.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope you have much joy with it. That's great. But thank you very much for joining us. I'll go to the 4-shot.
Pleasure.
Folks, it's been a pleasure. We will see you all next week. There's a show next week, but as I say, none on the 25th, obviously, and none on New Year's Day, very obviously. So after next week, we'll be back on January the 8th, and then we'll be one more show, and it's NAMM. God, I can't believe it's coming up so soon. Anyway, that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you all maybe next week. Bye-bye now.